Hello, I'm Stacia, and this is Wayne.
And this is our cruise cabana.
Come on in, pull up a hammock. This week we're going to talk about the Celebrity Ascent and in the retreat area.
One of 4 cruises that we took this past year in no particular order.
Celebrity is a great cruise line in a lot of ways, and they get some really high marks in the categories that we choose to review them on and to rate them on, right?
Yeah, one of the best cruise lines, I'd say. I mean, and they excel in many of the really important categories. So we need to start with that.
Mm-hmm. We took the Celebrity Beyond in July of this year, and then in December is when we jumped on the Ascent. So a lot of our review is the same because it's really just the overall celebrity experience. So our first category is the brand. And for Celebrity, we've got a solid 8.3 that we have given them for their brand. The brand is made up of uniqueness, personality, and their loyalty programs. Uniqueness and personality, we give them a 10. It's spot on. You know that you're on Celebrity. It's pretty slick. The staff is all highly engaged and very crisp and well trained. A lot of friendly service, but really good service. The loyalty program suffered. That's why it came down to an 8.3. We gave that a 5. It's just sort of meh. They could do a little bit better for their loyalty program, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, cruising has gotten so popular in recent years that I think the loyalty programs have sort of suffered as a result of that because they don't really have to compete as much, it feels like, for your business. There's plenty of people waiting in line to book a cruise. It's really, really popular. So, you know, in recent years, those loyalty perks have kind of fallen away. So this isn't anything unusual, and I can't think of many cruise lines that really shine in this department. But, you know, the Ascent and the Beyond, like, they're so similar that check out our Beyond review if you want to drill down into these deeper details, because they're sister ships, right? It's really the same review in many respects. The difference this time with us is we tried the Retreat, and we did a separate review for that, so check that out as well. But this is kind of an overall review of the entire Ascent, in case you wanted that. Architecturally, that's unusual to have something that's not a straight line.
Yes.
And especially on a vessel, which is the horizon might be tilted slightly if we're listing, you know. Alright, so now we'll talk about the design category, and this is a big one. We really love what Celebrity is doing with the design, and the Beyond and the Ascent are very similar ships, so if you're interested in a deep dive into really either ship, go back and check out that Beyond review, because it's very similar. The only difference in this case is that we were in the retreat area, so that kind of affected our score. Otherwise, it would have been samesies. So we really break this category down into 3 subcategories: the architecture and the space planning, the decor, and then the guest experience of all of that. So a lot to talk about, a lot to consider. The retreat really is the thing that kind of brings it down a little bit because the lounge just was really not very exciting. The space planning and the architecture, that really great creativity and all that innovation that seems to be really all over the place felt sort of lacking in the retreat for us personally. It just felt sort of okay. The bar was just sort of like there. The deck space was all right, nothing special.
I enjoy the deck space, but I am a sun worshiper and I can take the sun. Wayne can't. So I truly enjoyed the outside deck space. Interior was like, but I really liked being able to find loungers and being able to get the majority of the time shade for you and sun for me. But the interior lounge was just, the decor on it was similar to an airport lounge. You know, it wasn't super innovative, or it didn't scream Celebrity. It didn't scream, that you were on a cruise.
Yeah, that infinity veranda area that we were in on the Beyond, we loved it, and we loved everything they were doing. We didn't so much love the cabin concept, but overall, we just felt they were really knocking it out of the park on the
main area,
decor and everything. So we were kind of expecting to have our socks knocked off in the retreat, and it was just sort of a disappointment. That said, I mean, if you're not doing the retreat, you're going to be in that infinity veranda area. wow, there's just so much good stuff to talk about. So, go back, check out that Beyond, because they're sort of sister ships anyway. But yeah, so the lounge suffered. The guest experience for us, it came down a little bit because we were expecting to be, wowed, and we weren't. We did do a separate video on the retreat area, so check that out. Well, we won't get too deep into that stuff. But overall, it's still a pretty good high score. So what did we give it? We gave it a
7.
7. So
7 in all categories.
But overall, we gave it a 7, and it did drop considerably, a full 3 points, because we were paying a lot extra for that retreat area, and we felt that we really weren't getting the big bang for the buck that we were expecting there. If you're going to be staying in that infinity veranda area, this really wouldn't apply to you, and it's really a stunning, amazing ship.
And then moving on to the value, I'm the price shopper in the family, and I actually, through price comparison for the retreat versus the infinity veranda, or the retreat versus other ship within a ship options on other cruise lines, the score actually came up to an 8. I'm the price shopper in the family. So I'm the one that gets in to do price comparisons on board Celebrity, different times of the year, as well as the competition and what the cost is going to bring us with the included amenities within the suite category versus just a general infinity veranda, and then having to purchase the add-on drink packages or specialty restaurants, as well as additional costs for spa treatments, excursions. And the score came in higher than the Beyond, because the week that we actually took the retreat cruise was one of the less expensive weeks throughout the year. It's in December. It's not the holiday time. So we're able and fortunate to go away during that week. We can generally price out a cruise a little bit better. And we got into the retreat for a pretty good cost comparison versus a basic infinity veranda or the competition's ship within a ship concept. The included amenities, it was better because when you go through just an infinity veranda, you have to, again, buy everything on. This included everything, including Luminae, which the restaurant is so good that you don't have to buy the specialty restaurant packages. You really don't. And you get Daniel Bellode's specialty items on the menu, so you don't have to pay to go to La Voyage if you don't want to. And the additional costs, though, again, that's where Celebrity really, in my eyes, they don't have a great value product. Their spa treatments are highly expensive compared to, what the other cruise lines are. They don't give you a huge discount to book up front, as well as their shore excursions. We really thought that the shore excursions were going to be really unique and coming in from the retreat. They said it was limited capacity, but they weren't any different from the stuff on Carnival or the stuff on Princess within the exclusivity of it. So we gave it a solid 8. It came up a little bit from the Beyond, which had a 7, but that's really because when you buy into the retreat, you don't have to buy anything extra unless you want to.
Yeah, when you're paying something like twice the price, almost sometimes more, for a shore excursion compared to other cruise lines, you're maybe expecting twice the experience or something really phenomenal, and we just didn't see it. I mean, nothing wrong with their shore excursions for the most part, pretty on par with the other cruise lines, but just a little puzzled as to how they justify that cost. So
but it did come up in the retreat so it was a good price that we got to try the retreat. You can price it out there if you are a price shopper and if you have the ability to get away when you want to, like Wayne and I do. So it's well worth it if you can sort of juggle your itinerary and the time that you go away. It's a pretty good value. Yeah,
timing is everything on the price. So speaking of some of these things, we move on to Itinerary. And it came up a little bit on the Ascent for us. There was a little bit of a switcheroo at the last minute. Politically, there were some things happening in the Caribbean, so they switched one of our ports from Haiti to Falmouth, Jamaica. which was great. I love Jamaica. It's very scenic, a lot of natural beauty, a lot of very interesting things to look at, beautiful waterfalls and rainforests and mountains, and the people are lovely, the cuisine is amazing, the history is really rich and so much to learn. And we wound up going on this really fabulous tour of an old estate that had been there from the 1700s, and learned a lot about the very interesting cultural history. And but really we're breaking this down into ports of call, shore excursions, which we're talking about, and logistics, which for us is the docking and how easy or difficult is it to get on and off the ship and to get to the duty free and all those sorts of things. So 7.6 is what we gave it originally on the Beyond. Different ports of call. Those were great ports too, the ABC Islands. Love those. But in this case, I don't know. We just seem to... I don't know. They're really great, and it really comes down to preference. But the other thing we did was the Grand Cayman, Stingray City. Little bit crowded, but it's fun, and I'm not a huge fan of wildlife type photo ops and commercializing that type of stuff. But the Stingray City situation is fairly cool. They're free to roam, and it is a good way to experience some of the wildlife.
The crew was fabulous. Even the ship was a little bit older, a little bit, not what I was anticipating, but the crew was really, really great. And we had a lot of fun. They got us there early before all the other ships came in, so we were one of the first ones into Stingray City. That's something to keep in mind, is try to get the earliest excursion that you can, because once all those ships come in, it's crowded, and the water was pretty rough, and the stingrays may go off to the other boats to get fed. So they have one that this particular crew used all the time, and the stingray knew our handler. So they literally just hugged her. And I really enjoyed the crew a lot. I would love to maybe book them separately and probably have a little nicer, passenger to crew ratio, and it would probably be cheaper.
Yeah, they were one of the better ones as far as the crew. And the other thing worthy of mention is the way, what a great job Celebrity does in their public spaces, their embarkation, their debarkation, their shore tendering. They've put a lot of thought into the fact that those are public spaces, and that's part of the guest experience. And in other cruise lines, I've noticed these areas tend to be back corridors that aren't really meant to be seen, and it feels like you're just in a utilitarian cargo type area, and there's nothing sexy or amazing about it. Celebrity has really rethought that and reinvented it, and it feels like a really polished space with interesting cove lighting, and it's fun, and they have the security sort of really laid out in a way that doesn't feel like they're putting it together and Mod Podging things together at the last minute when you arrive, and rolling podiums around and setting up ropes. And it really feels like a permanent lounge. And the great thing about it is that if it's really hot out there on the dock, you can wait in these air conditioned, comfortable spaces instead of out on the pier. Under that scorching sun. So we really like that, appreciate that, and they do a really good white glove service on the way in with the cold towels, and the retreat area, I don't know, could probably use a little bit more work though, as far as...
Actually, no, I mean the retreat area, remember they had us meet separately.
They did, yeah. I mean they bring you down to a nice, even more comfortable area, and walk you through some of that stuff.
So when you're in the retreat and you have an excursion, you'll get something in your cabin that says to go to, and we went to the Eden Cafe, so we were able to grab breakfast. There weren't many people there other than the other retreat folks. So
that's true. I guess I was more thinking of when we were originally boarding. It felt a little flat. It was like,
well, this is this.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Yeah. So on the itinerary, when you're in the retreat, they will put something in your cabin about where to meet. And we got to meet at the Eden Cafe. It was only retreat passengers. And so it was very quiet. And We thought we were delayed at one point on one of them, but they just reassured us that no, you're in the right place and enjoy, have your coffee, and we'll get you there on time. And they escorted us off, and then the rest of the group, joined us. That was for Grand Cayman and for Jamaica. In Grand Cayman, doing the tender, which is the only tender between the two cruises that we had to take. That whole area is wonderful. Their gateway area where it's interior. They bring the magic carpet down and you can board the tender right from the magic carpet. It really and truly it makes boarding a tender a whole lot easier.
It's elevated compared to other cruise lines and what they're doing. So we really appreciate the fact that they've thought this through in the architecture and all the logistics of that go into that. And it's definitely noticed and appreciated.
Yeah. And then, so we scored the Itinerary an overall 8.
Yeah.
So it came up.
And they're, it was very on par with, our experience in the ABC Islands. So not too different really there. It's, kind of just a few fussy things here and there that affected the score. I guess that brings us to food.
Mm-hmm. Food was phenomenal. Literally, we gave it a 10. It got perfect in all categories. Being in Lumine or being in the retreat area with Lumine just elevated everything. We went back to Eden because we loved it so much on the Beyond. And we went to La Voyage, which was phenomenal. So Lumine was just really amazing. The food out on the outside deck, not so much, but Lumine truly made up for everything. Breakfast, lunch, the dinner service. We had great variety, quality, and creativity.
The categories, that we consider. Mm-hmm. And to clarify, Lumine it is great, but you're only going to get that if you're booking the retreat, which may even justify it. That alone, it's that good. However, Celebrity has such wonderful dining opportunities available to everybody that it's really kind of a choose your own adventure. And we did do the Daniel Belaude's restaurant La Voyage, which is absolutely out of this world, just remarkable. The service, the food, the quality of the food, the creativity of the food, the flavor, the freshness. Some of the best dishes I've ever had anywhere, and we're from Manhattan, so that's saying a lot.
And it was, it's not a cheap restaurant to add on. It is about $100 a person add on, and it was well worth it.
I mean, it's that's a lot compared to previous years past. I remember when private restaurant dining was like $10,
$25, yeah,
and then it went up to $25, and everybody was like, "Oh my god!" Now it's like
it'd be 100, 150 if you're doing the tasting menus. Yeah.
So it's inflation, and so but if food is your thing, it's and it is for us. That's one of the things that we really appreciate and what we're looking forward to most on the vacations. So in that case, absolutely.
Well, just to be clear too, though, I mean, when we were in the Infinity Veranda on the Beyond, the main dining rooms and the concepts of the 4 smaller versus 1 big dining room and the food freshness in those smaller venues, it got a 9.3. We have a perfect score in the retreat because of Lumine, but if you're in just a regular cabin outside of the retreat, be it an inside, an ocean view, Infinity Veranda, anything else but retreat, your food's still really, really good. The buffet is phenomenal. We still went down to eat at the general buffet. They don't have a great buffet area for the retreat like some other cruise lines, but we wanted to go down to the general buffet because it's really fresh. They have a big variety, and we'd go down to do a secondy breakfast and secondy lunch. Just to see what they had.
Yeah, so even if your thing is not necessarily food, or you just don't feel like you want to shell out extra money for food, you're going to have a great time, and you're going to experience a level of quality of service and product and cuisine that is super elevated. Their concept of their main dining room MDR concept is really interesting. They've got, is it 3 different restaurants? 4 different restaurants you can do. They're all themed differently. The architecture, the styling. There's the Italian Tuscan restaurant, which turned out to be our favorite.
You can see that in our Beyond review.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But it's the point being that like you're gonna have a great time without having to spend extra money. And in the case of the retreat, if you want to spend some extra money, it's that much better. Lumine is absolutely amazing. Really some of the best service we've ever had anywhere. But so food, just 10 out of 10, no matter where you're at on the ship.
Try the
even
corn
the buffet.
Soup. Try the corn soup in Lumine. It's really good.
All right, so that brings us to the cabin category, and that's super important. That's where you're going to be staying all week, so that's a huge one for us. And on the Beyond, go check out our previous review of that. We weren't big fans of that infinity veranda style cabin, and they're sort of all in on this. So there really aren't many good options beyond that category unless you want to bump it up to the suite, to the retreat areas. So that's kind of unfortunate, and that really hurt our score on the Beyond. But go back and check that review out. We really drill into the ins and outs of why we don't love it. And I mentioned that here because that's the most numerous type of cabin, on the Ascent or the Beyond sister ships. So we gave that a 6.6. But for this cruise, we were on the Ascent. We were in the retreat area, and one of the things that drew us in there was we could get a traditional style balcony, and we actually loved that, and it did bump our score. It'd bring it up to almost a 9. So,
we were also in the very entry level suite on the magic carpet. So we had a phenomenal cabin in retreat. The balcony had one of the back windows, so we had the full balcony and an open window that we could watch where we had come through, where we had sailed from. We didn't peek on those open balconies that you can see into. We made it a point to not.
There's not much to see. It has this sort of oblique view anyway, looking aft. Yeah. So it's I think people make more of it than.
Yeah, but it was a great balcony. The comfort of the cabin. The bed was so comfortable. The bathroom was huge. There's plenty of storage. There was a little awkward moment on the magic suite or the magic carpet suites where the bed and the closets, it's pretty close. So I hit my knee a couple of times with trying to let Wayne jockey by and hit my knee on the door. So it is a little tight there, but nothing that is not, a no-go. It was a really nice cabin. It was very large. It was nice and wide.
Yeah, cruising is tight quarters anyway, so you're used to that. A little bit of that awkwardness is probably unavoidable. It was probably a bigger deal in the infinity veranda category, but these balcony cabins, they're big, and the things that we consider in this cabin category are comfort, the function, and the style, and all 3 of those really are super related, and there's a lot of overlap, so it's sometimes difficult to how we're going to slice this pie, but it was very comfortable. The design was great. The function, we had a lot more room to hang on garments, to a lot more drawer space generally. The bathroom was phenomenal. It was big, huge, almost a full-size tub. I was able to take a bath.
And if you're traveling with a family, we were in cabin 10182, 10th floor, number 182. And so we were in the magic carpet suite. It's in its own hallway, and you can actually have the hallway door open to the cabin that shares that hallway with you, so that you could have a suite plus an interior cabin for your kids. My boss is doing that to the Mediterranean this summer, so we'll have to get his take on it. But it was a really nice cabin. I really enjoyed it. We did have 2 loungers, 2 chairs, and a table out on the balcony. So there's been questions about a table. Well, it's not a dining table.
Well, I mean, it's really not even big enough for a tray, for an in-room dining tray. So there's really that. And that was kind of a miss, because it's like, all right, finally we have a lot of space out here compared to that infinity veranda.
I know there's a lot of controversy. Everybody's asking whether or not there are loungers on the Celebrity balconies. I guess that they've been pulled off a lot of the suites due to some safety issue. I'm not quite sure if that's the reason, but rest assured, when we were on in December, we had 2 loungers, 2 chairs, and a table, and we still had room to work around on that balcony.
Yeah, and we didn't really do a lot of in-room dining anyway, and quite honestly, there are so many food options that,
Yeah.
So, but we did have that double door weird foyer which was kind of interesting.
Yeah, we had a hallway entry into a hall, so that what do you call it?
Well, for whatever reason, the architecture of that part of the ship, I guess, is such that they had to sort of parse up this room, and it's sort of these double doors, and it's a little awkward. And if you're, those cruise ship doors are normally pretty difficult to operate, and they're heavy, and they're, so the fact that there are 2 of them was, I guess, maybe kind of annoying. I actually like those quirky details, so I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. You don't see this every day,
And it was sort of moody. When we'd enter from the hallway into our private hallway, it was sort of like a compound, so it could be a family compound. You have the interior cabin on the right that we didn't have access to, and then our door was at the end, but it was mood lit at night, so there was always a little light on so that it wasn't a dark hallway that you're entering, and it wasn't just bright light. It was like purple light, blue lights. It was interesting.
Yeah, so really liked the cabin on the retreat side. On the infinity veranda side, maybe not so much, but
went up 2 full points, over 2 points from.
We like those traditional style balconies.
Yeah, and then so that ended up with an 8.7, right? Total.
9 almost. So
yeah, and then that brings us into service, and that is dining, hotel, and bar. Mm-hmm. So the dining. We gave it a 9. It was almost perfect. The only issue that we had was out on that pool deck. It was really clunky, and it wasn't the staff. They were engaged, but it was a full ship, and the bar service was a little clunky, and the lunch service it took a long time to get a basic menu, and they don't have a lot to offer out on the pool deck. But you would think that it could have been a lot quicker because it's pretty easy items that they're serving. But it took a while to get a server over, and then it took a while to get the food.
Yeah, and it wasn't clear who the waiter was and what the stations were, or even that it was necessarily a restaurant. There was just kind of open seating, no real host situation, which, it didn't feel very elevated, very special, which you're kind of expecting for the retreat. It just felt like a rooftop bar at a Hilton or something. The bartender, he was okay, but again, the bar itself, the design, to go back to the architecture, and that's how these things overlap and they're all related. The design of the bar itself, I think, really hurt the whole experience. It just didn't feel like a place where people wanted to get together and congregate and meet people, and that's kind of what we love about these these public spaces and these retreat areas, and hey, where are you from? I'm from Fort Lauderdale, and that's part of it. Especially now that in the old days of cruising, you had a set dining time, a set table, and you had dinner with strangers like all week long. That was actually really cool, and I do miss that.
I do too. The service got a really good score, though. It sounds like we're trashing them, and we're not, I promise.
No, not at all. Some of the best service of any cruise line. Celebrity, kills it in this department. Yeah.
Our butler, our room steward, phenomenal. They got a perfect 10. Our Luminae staff, perfect 10. The only thing that brought it down was, again, we were in the retreat, so we should have had 10 on all 3 services. The bar and the dining on the pool deck were what brought the score down. So it still got an 8.7 overall. It was a little bit higher due to Luminae's staff than it was on the Beyond. But it was a really good, when you compare that to other cruises, it was a really good service. It's just that we saw where they could have elevated it even just a little more. So I don't want it to sound like we didn't enjoy the service. They were phenomenal.
Well, I think the thing that was confusing for us was the service is so amazing outside the retreat that when we got to the retreat, we were expecting to just be blown away, and we weren't. It was actually not as good, we felt, as the service on the other side of the wall, So that was kind of a disappointment, and that's what brought it down. There could have been, more people out there on the pool deck serving cocktails, and it felt like you had to kind of wait and look for someone, and not a huge deal, but we did notice other people sort of had that similar complaint, so they just, I think, need to fine-tune that service out there and elevate it a little bit, at least to the standards outside the retreat.
Mm-hmm. So on to embarkation and debarkation. That came down because, again, we paid to be in the retreat. And for some reason, the ship was a little bit delayed leaving Port Everglades. And, we're in a suite. We had a suite lounge where we're checking in, and it was packed. I mean, they had to get folding chairs for us to sit on. The staff was great again. But they had a bar, wasn't set up. The bar had like warm drinks off to the side, no ice, no server back there to sort of help you. It's like, can we take this? Nobody had asked if we could grab a water. They had, juices and sodas in cans with no glassware. It was really awkward. And I've seen prior videos of this lounge where it is activated when it's empty. You come in and you want to spend a little bit of time in there because they've got canapes and they've got cold drinks, but you get ushered on really quickly. And this was just a miss on this particular sailing. I don't know what happened, but again, we're in the suite and it was a full room and they didn't activate the lounge area. It was just a little bit odd. It really nailed their score down a whole point. So transportation and parking, that didn't change from one cruise to the other. And the boarding came down because it was just sort of hectic, The embarkation lounge just really failed. Debarkation was great. We were able to get off whenever we wanted to after a nice leisurely restaurant at Lumine, and our bags were right there. So debarkation was great, but it came down overall to a 6.
Yeah, I mean, that lounge, it's a small part of the experience because you're not there very long, but it's also a big part of the experience because it's your first stop on your vacation, and you're like finally on vacation. You've finally given your bags to the porter at the curb, and now you're in the Emerald City, right? So I think probably what happened is there was a delay or a hiccup or something, but we noticed compared to other cruise lines, they just didn't deliver. And it's unfortunate because it's a first impression. You only get one chance to do it, and it just felt like there was a lot of confusion. They weren't really ready, and look, things happen,
And they had a lot of staff, but nobody behind the bar. Nobody to get you ice. Nobody to, make you coffee or whatever. Yeah. That would have made that phenomenal. I mean, it's why you have a separate departure lounge.
Yeah, so again...
If it was my cruise line... I would have wowed them, wowed us while we were on a slight delay.
It's the retreat. That's part of what you're paying for, part of the expectation. So if you're not doing the retreat, probably wouldn't, have noticed it as much because, we're looking to have our socks knocked off. And, on the Beyond, our embarkation was great. We got right in. The lounge was great. It was comfortable. I don't think it was anything amazing, but
that's why you
booked the retreat.
The retreat brought that down a notch, so we're down to a 6 from a 7 on the Infinity Veranda.
Still a very high score, and still something that was easily it's forgettable once you get on, and it quickly fades in the distance. Yeah.
So then on to entertainment, there was really no change. So. It got a 7 on the Beyond, got a 7 on the retreat. It's all the same. There's nothing additional in the retreat area. So
well, you do get the assigned seating, which is nice, and they do hold that for you.
But I could never find it.
No, it was right there.
No, that wasn't. That was the premier seating. That's something else that you buy if you're in the Infinity cabin. That was not.
Okay. See, I was confused.
So you didn't even know.
There's some confusion about that. I mean, we just didn't take advantage of it. I just. We found plenty of seating at the bar right behind that area, so it was fine. But
that's a package of that you can buy to have that reserved seating if you're in the Infinity Veranda.
Yeah, I thought they held it for
cabin.
Up to 20 minutes or something.
They did, but I don't know where the retreat area was. Nobody was there to show it to us.
I think she's confused because it was right there underneath us.
That wasn't it.
I don't know.
That wasn't it. So
apparently, there's some confusion about this. So.
So
maybe they need to work.
I do a lot of research.
All right.
So, But that, there was retreat seating somewhere, but we just chose to stand in the back and head out when we wanted to head out because we'd get there late. So,
All right. Well,
but 7 and 7.
Well, it was worth mentioning that the theater is amazing. The architecture in the theater, the design, those big wraparound screens, it's very comfortable. Our one complaint was my complaint. I don't know if you felt the same way, but that theatrical smoke, they need to pump the brakes on that, man. It was like a 5-alarm fire in there. Sometimes you can't see the stage. It's so bad, and I don't think that stuff is necessarily great to be breathing. But
I enjoyed it because it gave a theatrical, flavor to it. It just made him so uncomfortable, made me uncomfortable.
Less is more.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. So you may too if you're up for it. But you can bring your mask. We're almost to the end of our review, but our one category that is my favorite, personally, is the mystery ingredient.
Well, yeah, this scoring system that we've come up with, we score 9 different categories, and then the 10th category, which really enables the cruise line to distinguish itself and bring up its score, is the mystery ingredient. It's kind of this chemical reaction, this weird scientific thing that we do. And so this time around, and this is unique to us, and what we chose to do in booking the retreat was the retreat lounge. The lounge for us, and again, if you're not doing the retreat, this may not even really be something that you care about. Probably not, because it's not going to affect your experience. It did in our case. We love the lounge area in the retreat. In any ship within a ship concept, the lounge for us is really important because it's kind of the focal point. It's the social epicenter of the whole experience, where really the whole experience kind of constellates around hopefully a nice, comfortable, well-appointed lounge that has interesting views and wide vistas, and hopefully a great bar where people can go and congregate and meet their fellow passengers, and a place to have a drink before dinner and maybe meet up again after dinner for maybe a quick midnight snack before you turn down. Hopefully with some piano music playing. It sounds great, right? That's what a lot of the other cruise lines are doing anyway, and we really felt like this was a big fumble.
Yeah, this particular lounge was, it was big. It had, I thought, pretty views from the sides of the ship. It was glass on both sides, but it was just these sectional seating areas that it was not conducive to really getting to know your fellow cruisers. The biggest miss in my review of the retreat lounge is that the bar never had a bartender, and the bar is just like a walk up and grab, or they may come out to where you're sitting to take your order, but there was no place to sit at a bar stool and get to know again your fellow cruisers, get to know the bartender, get to know the staff, spend a little bit of time with that bartender that's making you a specialty cocktail and checking on how you like it. Service is one thing. They can come over and take your order, but then they take it back, and it's not the bartender that you're getting to really talk to and experience things with. So it just really did not come up to my expectations. I didn't like how it was separated from Luminae, and it was separated from the pool deck. It wasn't really a ship within a ship. It was just decks within a deck that were cordoned off. So while I loved the pool deck, I loved Luminae, the room was great on retreat. Those are all things to purchase in the suite category and to pay a little more for. Everything's included. I just think that the lounge was a miss on Celebrity's part to activate it properly and really use it. I never got a canapé in the lounge, and they have a whole section to have snacks available. On other cruise lines, there's always food available just to go try a little nosh between lunch and dinner. If you want a cocktail, to have something a little bit to settle your stomach and make sure that you don't get too schnockered. But no matter what time of day, I kept trying to find food at this lounge. I never got anything. I never saw anything out. And that isn't, again, it's just a miss in my point. The score came down, that's what really hurt the score. So do you want to reveal what the mystery ingredient actually scored?
Well, yeah, and this is what hurts the overall score. We gave that retreat lounge a 3 out of possible 10, and that brought the entire score down a full point. So this is where that mystery ingredient can really help or hinder. It just didn't feel welcoming. We went 5-6 times into that lounge to try to see if maybe there's some food out now. Nope, it was never there. And the space itself, it's just crushed. It's very stretched. You walk right into a wall when you come in. There are some good views, but they're on opposite sides. And the bar itself, you can't find it. You can't see it. The colors are very bright, which in theory is okay.
I like the brightness, but it was just bland brightness.
Well, I don't know. At night, it's not a place you want to go and hang out in a big bright room or in the evening hours. And the seating was just kind of mishmash, hodgepodge. It felt more like a ship reading room or a library than it did a lounge. It's just not very inviting, and so we really didn't utilize it. There was like a concierge desk all the way down on the end, which was kind of an odd choice. Shouldn't that be up front? But I think we did have one issue with our key card that we had to get resolved, and there was a lot of confusion around it. I won't go into the details, but it was just sort of strange. We wound up waiting in a line to switch out our key cards, and they weren't working up at the pool deck. And we
had to go to the main concierge to get it fixed because they had messed it up so poorly in the retreat lounge. So
they fixed it, but it was just there was a lot of confusion around that. So that was really the only thing we utilized in that lounge. We tried to get a drink in there once, and there was nobody behind that bar. I mean, you can't even really see the bar. It's around this weird corner, and there's nowhere to really sit at the bar. It felt just more like a galley. That's a really weird choice for an elevated lounge. So obviously we didn't like it. So the score, reveals that.
And that mystery ingredient on the Beyond was, we gave it a 10 because of the magic carpet. It was really cool, very unique. This, we gave it a 3 for the lounge, and it brought the overall score of the Celebrity Ascent Retreat product to a 7.
Yeah, I mean, the overall experience of the Ascent, including the retreat, so the whole enchilada, 7. Interestingly, a higher score in that veranda, infinity veranda side. So so it begs the question: is it worth it? And we did a full, deeper review on the retreat, so go check that one out. But as far as if it's worth it, I guess it really depends on what you value. If you don't care about the lounge, then this probably isn't a big deal. If food is your thing, then maybe it brings the score up because that Luminé restaurant is actually really remarkable. So again, for us, our particular type of cruising that we do, that's how we're seeing it.
Exactly. So I still would sail Celebrity. I'd sail in probably, as low as an ocean view. I always want to have a window and above. But I don't know if I would, be disheartened if I didn't do the retreat. So I enjoyed the retreat a lot. But, I'd be fine in another cabin on board that ship. It's got a good enough product, solid branding product, solid experience with the open concept of the rest of the ship.
Yeah, Celebrity is a top product. I mean, absolutely amazing cruise line, and that should really be the overall message. So just take all the bad stuff we said, or the not so good stuff, and just realize that they have an amazing product, and we highly recommend it. Amazing food, and they do so many things better than any of the other cruise lines. The one area they need to work on, we feel, is that retreat. They need to really rethink the whole concept of it. I think that's what's hurting them, is their concept of the retreat needs to be retooled. And then from there, the execution of it, in all the areas that we talked about, the architecture, and because the concept is going to inform all of those other things. And I think what's ultimately happening is, as it trickles down, we're seeing the sort of failed concept, express itself, not only through the architecture, the design, the styling, but also in the product, the service, the food.
So you really didn't like it?
Well, the retreat, yeah, no, I am not a fan of their retreat at all. I was
good to know.
Really surprised.
It's good to know when I go shopping.
Yeah, it's but that said, Celebrity, I think should absolutely be a cruise line that everybody considers if you're really looking for an elevated experience as far as service and dining and just the whole thing.
So I would say go shopping, but don't overspend on the retreat.
You don't need to, I don't think.
Very good. All right, so I'm going to go shopping for our next cruise. What should I look for, Wayne?
Well, I think that's what we've been talking about. Yeah, well, thanks for joining us here in the Cruise Cabana again. And we've got a cruise coming up shortly.
Mm-hmm. We're going to be on the MSC Seascape in the Yacht Club.
Yacht Club. So we're going to talk
tuned.
about the Yacht Club, which we're doing again. We've done it a few times now, and we haven't done it in a while. So this will be an interesting experience for us, having just come out of the retreat, because that's going to give us some, sounding board type stuff. We've got some comparison, contrasting, type things we can do.
So if you like this review, go back and check out our Celebrity Beyond and the specific retreat review. And we will see you in our next review. I'm going to go pull up a hammock and watch the sunset and start dreaming of my next cruise.
Thanks.
Adios.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.